This week on Crazy for Legos, I am retelling the entirety of Chima. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. So if you haven't watched part 1, then I would highly recommend you would watch it before you would jump into this one, since there's a bunch of spoilers for part 1 and I guess overall spoilers for the entire show as well. And without further ado, let's get on to the video. Previously in Chima, Cruller betrayed Krager and ganged up with the wolves to steal all the lion's chi. Krager finally had his mind control wear off and becomes best friends with Laval. Anyways, since the wolves have a lot of chi, they are easily the strongest chime in all of Chima. So they decide to steal everyone's tiny amount of chi so they can forever stay on top. However, they didn't actually partner with Cruller, which makes sense, and she's really annoying to be honest. So now she's kicked out, and with no more mind control flowers, she can't even convince Krager to let her back in. So just kind of an outcast with nowhere to call home. And to top it all off, the lions still have a humongous hole in the wall, so they can get attacked pretty much at any point. So situations in Chima are all really bad. But luckily, Shadowrun arrives and gives them a golden chi to fix up their wall, so I guess it's less bad? Though it's still really bad since the wolves are pretty much omnipotent with their humongous stash of chi, which is causing them to have earthquakes too. And since they are super greedy, they literally take all the chi from all the other tribes. However, Laval and Eris work together to try giving the tribes their chi by going for the sky. But due to a windstorm caused by the wolves, hoarding chi causes them to crash and have all of the chi drop into the gorge of eternal depth, which is not really that eternal. And Laval uses the rope to climb down and grab it because bad things have been happening down there since he dropped the ones before. He manages to grab it from pure luck and barely manages to deliver some chi. Meanwhile, Cruller finds a tiny mind control plant and uses it on Krager for the final time. So he sends all of the Crocs to steal the wolves' chi, which they try storming the tribe, but they have way too much chi, so they get overpowered and absolutely cooked and captured. However, all the tribes notice, and if they see that the Crocs are getting abused, then they would all attack the wolves. So basically, the Crocs use that to their advantage and basically start getting treated like kings. However, Laval still somehow thinks they're getting abused, so he goes with Eris to find Shadowwind. And at the Ravens' knockoff race, he finds a fake Shadowwind who can't even drive and believes that it's the real one, and they head off to the wolves. However, when they arrived, the wolves pretty much gave away the Crocs because they were tired of treating the Crocs like kings. But this is when Krager's mind control had worn off. So once he comes back, he wants to make everything right. So Cruller finds someone that can make chi that Krager decides to trust her for some reason and donates a bunch of chi to all the tribes. However, they realize that the chi is really bad and makes everyone turn into chickens, which they try getting the chi back, but most of it has been used anyways. But the small amount they get back, the wolves steal, which they pretty much donate since when the wolves attack the lions, when they use the chi, they turn into chickens, so they pretty much lose immediately. Now, meanwhile, the Ravens have just figured out that in the Eagle's home, nobody owns anything, so they can just steal everything and sell it. However, once they steal everything and try to sell it, nobody wants it since it's all nerdy stuff, so they can't even sell it, so they pretty much donate it back. Also, now that Krager is chill again, they decide to make a pact to never fight again. However, Cruller hates this idea, so she makes a plan to throw the root of persuasion plant into the fire when they're just about to sign, sending him into a trance and making everyone betray each other. Luckily, Laval manages to exit it, but the only way to get everyone out of the fog is to steal a golden chi, which he does and uses it to save everyone. But since stealing a golden chi is punishable by exile, Laval is forced to be exiled and go out into the outer lands. However, the Ravens steal his clothes and pretend to be him so they can capture that, Laravis. In exile, Shadowwind arrives and gives Laval the Pact of the Wolves, the same one that was dropped into the Gorge of Eternal Depth, and sees that Laravis is captured. So he comes back and saves him and leaves his exile as well. However, when he comes back, there's a big black cloud circling Mount Kavora, the home of all of the Chi, which Eris flies into the cloud, and only to see that the cloud isn't a cloud, but it's a group of living bugs, and I see Shadowwind leading all the bugs away. However, the bugs arrive back, and all the tribes come and shoot it. But to make matters even worse, Mount Kavora has stopped making Chi, which is bad. I mean, really bad. The life force of all of Chima has dried up. And guess who everyone blames? The lions for convincing him to shoot down Mount Kavora. This means that all of Chima will be gone within 2 full moons. So they wait for the legend beast to arrive, but none comes. So Eris arrives. Eris hires the beavers to fix it, but they can't even get up there to fix it. And then an all-out war happens on all of the lions, where Laval sacrifices himself and dies to save Krager. However, Laval isn't actually dead. He just bought himself time to find out where the Legend Beast is, and finds the Croc Legend Beast with Krager's mom. She tells him that in the Gorge of Eternal Death, the Chi that Laval dropped in had caused for the scorpions, spiders, and other bugs to become smart, and they captured King Krabadaskapskapskapska so he can show them where they can get more Chi. And they had captured all the Legend Beasts so they can't come back and stop them. So the tribes all have their strongest warriors band together so they can go into the Outlands and stop them. Now the Outlands are all really dangerous with murderous plants, so Skinnet the Skunk gives them a bunch of his farts in a can so they can throw it and kill the plants with the stench. So they barely manage to make it out with their lives. But they do, and they arrive at Lavertis' house, who is a little bit strange, but he is literally the most obvious foreshadower ever, saying that he could pick them off one by one right now, or will I? He's also very mysterious since he knows about how King Kroskalapska was captured, and there's a glowing room that nobody can enter, and knows where all the legend beasts are. Meanwhile, the cloud enters Mount Kavora and steals all the Chi, and to top it all off, they had a stowaway, since Rogon's sister had come too. They arrived to where the Gorilla Legend Beast was, and also where the Rhino Legend Beast was, but since Rogon the Rhino was close to his Legend Beast, he becomes extremely smart and manages to make a contraption of freedom on the Rhino and Legend Beast. But when they come back, Lavertis is super angry at them and blames them for breaking into a secret room and stealing everything. But they realize that the Raven Legend Beast must have stolen everything. So they enter the room and realize that Lavertis is actually Shadowwind. And what he had lost is all of the golden cheese he had been hoarding. So they decide to race. And if they win, then Shadowwind has to join them. And they work together. So they win the race, meaning the Shadowwind has to help them, and they work together. So they find the Raven Beast, who is being controlled by the Scorpions. But Razor, the Raven, spills gold paint all over the Scorpions, aggroing the Raven Beast since the number one thing Ravens love is gold. Attacking them so they can free the Raven Beast. However, they accidentally leave behind a Speedor, so now the tribes can make Speedors, which is also not good. On the way back, they find the Eagle Legend Beast, who takes them down to where the Bear Legend Beast is, who is sleeping on a rock, balancing the eagle's eggs in the bear, meaning if one of them comes off, then the other dies. So Laval decides to do some crazy stuff to save both of them. That means that we have the Croc, Gorilla, Rhino, Raven, Eagle, and Bear Legend Beast, meaning that we only need the Wolf Legend Beast and the Lion. However, legend says that the Mother Tooth shall shine light on the way, so Warris the Wolf puts the Mother Tooth on a telescope and finds the Legend Wolf, which is where Krager's dad, King Skolopska, is being held. So they work together, but then they both get captured because Plovar, Krager's dentist bird, comes and is way too loud. However, the rest comes, except for Lavertis, since he hates King Kroska, since he caused him to be exiled in the past. But he did upgrade their weapons, and so they grab everyone. However, they enter a cave where they see that the lion beast is also being held. And the other tribes finally realize that this is all happening just because of how Laval dropped the cheetah into the water. So, it's all his fault. So Laval is pretty much ostracized now. Looks for the lion legend beast on his own. And manages to save him, and they finally make up and have an all-out battle, but all of the exits get blocked off. But Lavertus makes an exit and stays back and sacrifices himself to trap all the bug tribes too. However, just as they are about to exit, Laval gives them a chi out of kindness, since in Chima, everyone shares chi. Except since they are so angry at this gesture of kindness, they drop it into a pit, where something even worse awakens. And that is all for this week's video. Goodbye!